Good afternoon once again. So before we move on to our session, we will just have a revisit at our instructions. Kindly mute your microphones and do switch off your videos for better quality. You can raise your queries in the chat box and the moderator will take your questions to the speaker. The most important attitude that can be found is the desire to go on learning. A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to day 3 of the FDP, Integrated Learning and the NEP 2020, organized by the IQAC, St. Francis de Sales College, Bangalore. We are sure we've witnessed intellectual sessions for the past 2 days, and definitely we're sure that these sessions were quite informative and helpful. Today, being the third day of the FDP, we would like to welcome everyone to session 5. We can be assured that we would be able to grab more knowledge as we move into the session. A special note of welcome and appreciation to Dr. Vittal Poddar for humbly accepting our invitation. Thank you, sir. On behalf of St. Francis de Sales College, once again, we render a hearty welcome to everyone. Let us invoke the blessings of God as we begin our session. We have the prayer now. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Well, yes, we are very much privileged to have with us this afternoon Dr. Vittal Poddar to handle our session. I now request Professor Bharati to introduce our speaker for the day.
Dr. Vittal D. Poddar holds MA and PhD degree from the Department of Ancient Indian History and Epigraphy, Karnataka University. Sir has done his PhD in Public Finance in early and medieval Deccan. He is the recipient of ICHR JRF for his PhD. Sir also holds a PG diploma in Industrial Relations and Personal Management from Bhavans College, Bangalore. Presently, Sir is working as Senior Research Associate in Mythic Society, Bangalore. Sir holds 19 years of experience as Professor of History in Seshadipuram First Grade College, Yelahanka, and 13 years as faculty in Seshadripur Institute for Management Studies, Yelahanka, Bangalore. Sir has served in Nagarjun Degree College, Yelahanka, as the academic coordinator and principal for 5 years. Sir's area of academic interest and research includes higher education, interdisciplinary studies, socio-economic, cultural, and many more academic interests add on to his profile. He has presented 31 research papers and is a life member of 6 academic bodies. So far now, Sir has participated in more than 50 seminars, faculty development programs, conferences, and workshops as a resource person. Sir also holds international academic exposure and interactions, includes visit to 9 universities in the USA and 1 in Singapore till date. In the year 2018, April, Sir was invited to present a research paper on the topic Environment and Jainism, a study of Jain monuments in ancient Karnataka in the conference organized by the Department of Philosophy and Religion, College of Arts and Science, University of North Texas, USA. We are pleased to have such an eminent and experienced person among us to share his valuable inputs on National Education Policy 2020. Now, I would like to request Sir to take over the session and enlighten all of us with his experience and knowledge. Once again, on behalf of SFS College, I heartily welcome Sir.
Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, sir,
Namaste.
you're audible, sir.
Good afternoon. Reverend Father Dr. Roy PK, Principal of the College. Reverend Father Jesus Jose, Vice Principal of the College. Professor Maya Matthew, IKSC Coordinator. Dr. Tharani, Professor Asha, and learned participants in this FTP. Good afternoon to all of you. Can I share my PPT?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
you can,
sir.
Yeah. Have you allowed me to just, excuse me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
No. Can I share it? But it is not accepting. It is showing cancel. Just you see, unless I am a co-host, I think I will not be able to share it.
Just a moment, sir. We will look into it.
Yeah. I think I should be made co-host. Then only I'll be able to share my screen.
Yes, sir. So can you please try it out now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I think now it's fine.
Yeah, 1 minute. Is it visible, my PPT?
So your screen is visible, but I suppose you will have to switch to the PPT. Yes, sir. Now it is visible.
Yeah. Shall I make it full screen?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
One minute.
Yes, sir. It's full screen now.
Yeah, it is full screen. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So the PPT is visible. PPT is visible?
Yes, sir. It's
Yeah. Thank you. So good afternoon. In my presentation will run like this. So the first part of my presentation, I would like to share some of the thoughts relating to higher education, all the things which are happening as far as higher education is concerned, particularly in India. Then I'd like to share some of the important things relating to NEP, because since my topic is blended learning, what exactly NEP 2020 says as far as blended learning is concerned. And in the third part, I would like to share my thoughts. What is my especially interpretation as far as blended learning is concerned? What exactly one should do when you talk of blended learning as far as NEP 2020 is concerned. Here I'd like to share, I think since you are all from higher education field, today whenever you read newspapers, whenever you attend any seminars and conferences also, whenever you participate in any intellectual interactions, these are the things which you just keep on the presenters or even the resource persons, they keep on talking about these issues. They talk about knowledge society, development of a knowledge society. India should become a knowledge hub, They talk about multi-dimensional approach as far as reforms are concerned. You cannot think of one-way communication. They say it should be multi-dimensional. They talk about educational institutions as a learning organization and innovative innovation centers also. This is the today when you read even when you attend the conferences, they are talk about integration of innovative strategies. They talk about when you talk digitalization, digi classrooms and other things also, from brick and mortar classrooms to digi learning. Today they say we are in the age of digital technology, hence they talk about digi learning, remote learning. Uh, Especially the discussion is going on about e-Pathshala, Swayam, edX as far as the Harvard Business School is concerned. Then there a lot of discussions are taking place. Teachers, what is the definition of a teacher today? They say a teacher is a, when you talk of a group of teachers, it is a multitask force. All these years we used to, whenever you used to talk about it, whenever you used to talk about whenever you used to give the definition of a teacher, we used to say a teacher is meant for teaching, but today he is supposed to discharge multiple duties and responsibilities. A lot of discussion is going on about upskilling of both teachers and students, use of artificial learning, tech-driven education system, and especially we say what sort of classes should be conducted when you talk of higher education field, especially in higher education. They say it should be analytical in nature, especially than the descriptive, or more analytical in nature than descriptive. Just based on case studies, you should keep on analyzing it. Adaptability, e-learning, and long back 4 or 5 years ago only, IIM Rohtak came out with this particular concept of age of blended learning. As far as India is concerned, we talk about change, we talk about adaptability, upskilling, diversity, multiple task, age of disruption, ICT enabled teaching, MOOCs and other things, use of social media like WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter also. And I would like to quote here Professor Sunil Vachani's special statement, former director of IIM Bangalore. He said, Indian education system needs a global perspective. So through these slides, I'd like to just draw your attention about what all the different things which are happening as far as the higher education is concerned. Many people are talking about the duties and responsibilities of the teachers. What exactly should be done in classrooms? What should be the nature of an educational institution? Why digital learning should be the mode of digital learning should be adopted? A lot of discussions are going on at different platforms as far as even India is concerned. And coming to my special topic, blended learning, also I'd like to give a very simple definition when you talk of blended learning also. As all of you know, that it is an education system where students will learn through both electronic media, that is online media, as well as traditional, that is classroom learning, plus electronic or online media also. That's why it is a combination of both online and offline teaching and learning. The definition looks very, very simple when you talk of blended learning also. After all, what is blended learning? You blend, you just combine two especially modes of sharing the knowledge. One is by using online mode, and another one is by using the offline mode also. But the question is it so simple? Only should we only understand this much only as far as the blended learning is concerned? It is not so. When I share the information which you get in NEP 2020, when you go through the draft of NEP 2020 relating to higher education, I have selected some of the important points because which are very, very relevant as far as my discussion is concerned. So let us just go through quickly go through these important points. NEP, because NEP draft runs to few hundred pages. I have selected some important points which are very, very relevant as far as my topic is concerned, blended learning also. 9 points. These numbers, they talk about the sections. So if you go to this particular number, you get the information also. 9.11 talks about what should be the status of higher education in India in 21st century. It talks about quality higher education, what all the things should be included as far as 21st century higher education is concerned. And 10.1 talk about this important thing also, though I'm sharing with you some of the points relating to multidisciplinary studies and multidisciplinary universities, because I want to focus more on multidisciplinary studies when you talk of blended learning. 10.1 talks about transforming higher education institutions into large multidisciplinary universities. What will be the situation after another 4 or 5 years? We cannot think of existence of standalone institutions in India, because cost-wise and as far as operations are concerned also, it is very, very difficult. Hence, NEP focuses more on establishment or the existence of multidisciplinary universities or colleges, and it also says when you talk of feasibility of the existence of an institution, it says there should be at least around 3,000 plus students. Then only the NEP says you will be able to manage the cost and you will be able to maintain the standards as far as an institution, whether a college or university is concerned. 10.2 also talks about multidisciplinary universities, and NEP specifically says the aim of NEP 2020 is to have multidisciplinary universities or higher educational institutions in India also. Hence, it has already given us a deadline by 2040. It says all higher education institutions in India will be converted they will get converted into multidisciplinary institutions also. 10.10 is very, very important also. The policy is very, very clear when you talk of blended learning also. It clearly says institutions, all these years this provision was not there. Normal universities and education institutions, they were not given the right, or they were not given permission to run the open distance learning courses or online programs. Whatever we did, it was totally offline. There were some specific institutions, like you can say IGNOU or KSU, only those kind of universities or institutions were given a special provision to run open distance learning or online programs. But NEP 2020 says henceforth the option is open to everyone, all education institutions, provided if they have got that permission or accreditation. See the last line, they can start offering online along with offline courses. They are allowed or they are permitted to start running especially the online courses also. Hence, the blended mode of especially learning and teaching in the coming years, it will be a normal practice when you talk of higher education institutions in India. 10.10 is very, very important. Policy already has given a green signal to especially allow the institutions. So how you will do it, that is left to the institution also. What all the pedagogy you are going to design, how exactly you want to run those courses, it is left to the discretion power rests with the institution. But policy has given a green signal as far as the blended mode of learning is concerned, when it says open distance learning will be permitted as far as higher education is concerned. Then it talks about, this is also very, very important, in the coming days, the higher education system will be an integrated system also. We cannot think of standalone institutions. We cannot think of having different compartments. All these years, when you talk of higher education sector in India, it was known for its compartmentalization, arts course, science course, we never used to have any sort of understanding or a common platform as far as higher education is concerned. But 10.13 is very important when you talk of blended learning, when you talk about the integrated approach or an integrated system also. And 10.14 also says about multidisciplinary institutions, holistic approach also. And why they are talking about multidisciplinary, later I would like to explain it further, why they are talking about a multidisciplinary education system and the blended mode also, because the most important thing is well-rounded development is very, very important. When you talk of 21st century, ultimately the focal point is our students. For the sake of students, you can use different modes. Ultimately, if you are able to deliver the best of the best to our students, ultimately the purpose is served also. Hence, when you talk of 21st century higher education, different modes will be used, or different, especially pedagogies or strategies will be used when they start delivering the things also which are required by the students also. And even it says, further says, engineering institutions like IITs in the coming days, they are not going to remain as standalone institutions. They will also be allowed to have arts and humanities courses. This is a very, very welcome development. And for your information, already many IIMs and IITs in India, since I think last year, they have started even humanities and arts courses. IIT Gandhinagar, last year only they have started MA course in society and culture. And I think by next year, IIM Bangalore is going to have social science department. IISc Bangalore has already got social science and humanities departments also. So it is not just a blending of teaching methods, it is also a blending of different courses also. So that is becoming a very, very common practice as far as higher education is concerned also. How especially education assessment is done also, it talks about the STEM and other things. That is also very important as far as the blended learning is concerned also. Blended learning is concerned. 11.11 is very important. In the coming days, since we are talking about blended learning and other things, what will be the uniqueness of Indian institutions when you talk of higher learning? They use a concept called as MERU, Multidisciplinary Education and Research Universities. And once our institutions or colleges or universities, they get the status of MERUs, I think blended learning will be a common practice also. Without a blended learning, you cannot think of especially running the courses also. Only with the help of offline mode, you cannot think of having the courses. You will not be able to deliver whatever is expected as far as a particular course is concerned. Meru concept will also support the purpose of, or it will also promote the blended learning mode as far as higher education is concerned also. Then it also talks about 13.2 also talks about, well, since we are the plan says, let us make especially all our institutions, let us prepare these institutions to accept the new practices also. Hence the policy clearly says each classroom should have an access to latest educational technology. We use the word term. Many institutions in Bangalore, they have got smart classrooms. Smart classrooms, that particular concept is going to become a common practice in the coming days when you talk of the blended learning also. Hence 21.10 also, it talks about how exactly it should be done. Quality technology is very, very important. Blended learning, what is very important today, when you read about online classes, we talk about poor connectivity and other things also. But when you talk of higher education, when you talk of blended mode of learning, online mode also, the quality technology is the need of the hour. Without quality technology, we cannot think of having a blended mode as far as higher education is concerned also. And hence, the policy NEP 2020 talks about establishment of an autonomous body to help and guide the education institutions in India to upgrade their technological skills also. Hence, it talks about the establishment of an autonomous body called National Educational Technology Forum will be created to provide a platform for free exchange of ideas on the use of technology, because many institutions are not in a position to, especially they may be in a confused state what exactly should be done, how we should especially think of adopting this blended mode and other things also. So who will guide the institutions, higher education institutions in India? An autonomous body or a platform called as National Educational Technology Forum will be given the responsibility of guiding any NETF, will be the central agency which will monitor, which will also guide the education institutions as far as upgradation of technology or the use and integration of technology to improve multiple aspects of education also. NETF also is going to play a very crucial role as far as the blended learning is concerned. Why these things are discussed today when we talk of blended learning? Policy is very clear. 24.1 says new circumstances and realities require new initiatives. 50 years ago, we never thought that our classrooms will become smart classrooms. 10 years ago also, we used to only talk about chalk and talk methods also. But today we are in 21st century, we are in 2021. Things are changing in a very, very different way. So that's why policy clearly says new circumstances and realities require new initiatives. If I don't take these initiatives, I will lose my existence. I will not be fit to survive as far as this competitive world is concerned. Hence, the policy clearly says ICT-based education initiatives must be optimized. It is nothing but promotion of blended learning. It clearly states, the NEP 2020 clearly states, when you see 24.1 under higher education section also, it clearly says in the coming days, when you talk of higher education sector in India, it is a totally ICT-based education institution. Without ICT-based education initiative, we cannot think of higher education. So that is the clear guideline which has been given, in the NEP 2020 also. So that one should keep in mind 24.1 also. Then that's why it says, it further says, teachers require suitable training and development to be effective online educators. Many people, they keep on asking me, sometimes whenever I go to any FTP, they keep on asking this question. Sir, unless we are trained, how can we think of switching over to online mode and other things also? That's why 24.3, if you see this particular point also, the draft clearly states teachers will be given suitable training, whether it is at a school level or at college level or at a higher level also. Without a training, it says we cannot think of switching over to online mode. Hence, in the coming days, once the teachers undergo that particular training, they are going to become online educators. All these years, our teachers were offline educators. We were very compatible with chalk and talk method also. That is traditional method. And once that training is given also, ultimately teachers will get converted themselves into online educators. Hence, one need not have any fear that I may lose a job or something also. That is not going to happen. Teachers training will be there. Suitable teachers training, the suitable training will be given to the teachers who will switch over to online mode. Once they undergo that training, they will be called as online educators, both online and offline, or you can say they will be the blended educators, and then they will start especially delivering the things as per the requirement also. And 24.4 also says given the emergence of digital technologies and emerging importance also. Teaching and learning at all levels, from school to higher education. This policy recommends the following initiative. I have said there are so many recommendations. 24.1.4, this point number I, A, B, C, D, F, G is there. I clearly talks about blended modes of learning also. It says in the coming days, along with the face-to-face in-person learning, there will be, it says, there will not be any replacement. We should remember NEP 2020 never talks about the replacement of existing mode. It says along with existing mode, there will be a blended mode. That is, there will be online mode of education also. Hence, one need not fear that since I'm not comfortable or since I'm not familiar with online mode, I may lose the job. That is not going to happen. Along with the offline mode, there will be online mode also. So these are the some of the recommendations related to blended especially learning, blended learning. I wanted to draw your attention to these important points in the NEP as far as blended learning is concerned. So this is the second aspect. Then when you come to third aspect also, these are my observations. What is my interpretation of
I suppose Sir is having network problems. We will be reaching out to Sir, and Sir will be joining us very quickly. Kindly hold on. We're reaching out to Sir, and Sir will be joining back. Kindly give us a few minutes. Sir is joining back. while Sir is getting back onto the session, if we do have any queries, we can post it in the chat box, please. While Sir is joining back, meanwhile, if we do have any queries, we can post it in the chat box.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah.
We're good to go.
Have you allowed me to share my screen?
Yes, sir. You can share it, sir.
No, I think it's not allowing.
Okay. Just
Just to
looking
check.
into it. Yeah, just a moment, sir. Can you try now, sir?
Is it getting connected?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you can switch to the PPT now, sir. Yeah.
Is it?
Yes, all
huh?
good, all good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm extremely sorry. Two connections I'm using,
Yeah.
but because of rain.
Yes, we understand, sir. Not a
I
problem.
apologize. Two connections are simultaneously, internet connections are working, but I got disconnected.
Yes. No problem, sir. You can
Yeah.
carry on.
Yeah. I think I had come to this. I apologize for the technical snag. I think I had come to this particular aspect, age of blended learning. Am I audible now? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
You are
yeah, yeah,
audible.
yeah. Yeah. We are in the age of blended learning, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with another new concept, which is especially making news as far as higher education is concerned. All of you are familiar with blended learning, and today when you talk of higher education field in many advanced especially countries, and even in IITs and IIMs also in India, they are talking about along with the blended learning, they are talking about hybrid learning. What is this hybrid learning? They say it is a combination of along with traditional classroom mode and digital mode also. Another new concept has been added, that is experiential learning also. Under, especially when you talk of blended learning, both digital mode and even traditional mode also, teachers are delivering the things. And now they say along with the teachers delivering the things or providing the information, today they say the students also should be exposed to the experiential learning. So now we find when you talk of blended learning, along with the blended learning, we have gone another one step further, and we are also talking about the hybrid learning. Hence, my interpretation is, my special analysis is how you find a sort of evolution as far as the teaching and learning is concerned. Initially, we used to talk about chalk and talk method. Then some senior teachers may be familiar with the use of slide projectors on transparent sheets. We used to write the information and keep it on the projector and show it. Then we started talking about ICT enabled teaching. As part of ICT enabled teaching, blended learning and hybrid learning also, we have come a long way as far as the teaching and learning process is concerned. Hence, my interpretation is, today when you talk of blended learning or hybrid learning also, it is an integrated approach to learning. If you don't especially support an integrated approach also, our especially purpose will not be served, and we will not be able to deliver the things as per the expectations of the 21st century. Hence, blended learning is a synthesis process. It is not antithesis. One should remember, we synthesize many concepts, we synthesize many teaching techniques in order to deliver the things in a better way also. So that is the uniqueness of blended learning. Hence, we are in the age of experiential learning. Along with the traditional modes, we should also accept the experiential learning also. Why we are talking about all these different methods or modes also, was through blended learning ultimately, my idea is it should provide a better understanding of the subject to a learner also. When a learner is learning something, if he is able to have a better understanding through these modes of a particular subject also, then the purpose is served. Hence, it is an integration of knowledge from different sources. We collect information from different sources, and we especially deliver the things in a cohesive manner. So that one should keep in mind when you talk of blended learning also. Hence, it is a blended learning, not a mixed learning. One should have a clear understanding when you talk of blended learning also. And how you are going to make a blended learning a reality in the coming days. For the success of blended learning, one should have multiple skills and knowledge. That's why I said in earlier slides, I said a teacher is supposed to especially discharge multiple tasks. Unless he he involves himself in multiple tasks also, then the blended learning concept is not going to become a reality. Unless you discharge multiple tasks with the multiple skills and knowledge, blended learning concept will remain only on paper. It will not become a reality also. Then blended learning is an innovative approach. Why? Year after year, there will be a growth. It is an evolution process. When you talk of learning, it is an evolution process. Since it is an evolution process also, we should keep on especially adopting innovative ideas. Should keep on adopting innovative approaches. Only through these innovative approaches we'll be able to deliver the things also. Hence, it is a new mode of learning, and it promotes especially acquiring of new sets of skills along with the existing learning. Hence, my especially suggestion is blended learning should become a policy matter under institutional development. We talk about IDPs under NAC also. In the IDP, we should say, yes, we are going to deliver the especially information only through blended learning. So hence it should become a policy matter. So online and offline learning should be complementary to each other. They should not become contradictory. They are not contradictory. They should go hand in hand. Harmonious blending of different branches of knowledge under multidisciplinary studies is the need of the hour. Since we are talking about multidisciplinary studies concept will become a reality only when we switch over to blended learning. And without a blended learning, multidisciplinary studies is not at all possible, because one should learn different things, one should give information from different sources. That is going to happen only with a combination of online and offline. To some extent offline, and to a great extent on with the help of the online mode only. One has to undergo learning process from different modes. That is the need of the hour. Learning a subject from different dimensions, that is going to become a reality as far as higher education is concerned. Whenever you talk a particular subject, it has got political, social, economic, cultural, and other dimensions. These dimensions cannot be studied only with one mode. These dimensions of a particular subject can be studied when you integrate different modes of learning. It may be online, offline, or experiential learning and other things. Hence, the need is to introduce horizontal integration of learning. Horizontal means you bring all these learning processes parallelly. All these years, verticals means they existed in isolation. Rather than keeping them in isolation, they should be integrated horizontally. Once you start the integration process, then only the blended learning is going to become a reality. Make a classroom learning more educative. Today, the policy makers and educationists, they say the classroom learning should be more educative, it should be experiential, it should be interactive, it should be interesting, it should be informative also. And how you are going to make it a reality? Only through blended learning. That's why today they are talking about promotion of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary studies, and you may be familiar with the concepts called as liberal arts. Few years ago, we started talking about liberal arts, and today even science field also they are talking about liberal science. Under liberal science, they are talking about that just now I said, horizontal integration of learning process along with the science subjects. They are talking about sorry, integration of arts subjects, like it may be history, it may be sociology, it may be philosophy, it may be language, it may be art and other things also. Horizontal process is happening, and multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary studies are going to become a reality with the help of the blended learning concept also. Hence, a time has come, we should go for re-envisioning also. Our entire education system should have a new vision. It doesn't mean we don't have vision. We have a vision. Once again, we should upgrade that vision also, depending on the need of the 21st century. What is the need of the hour? Break the silos. We are too much compartmentalized. When you talk of higher education in India, engineering is different, medical is different, arts is different. How many universities are there? For each subject you have got universities also. Economically are not going to become viable. We should go for blended learning, and we should go for interdisciplinary studies also. 21st century higher education aims at providing multiple skills. Multiple skills you are going to acquire only through multidisciplinary studies also. So education with a universal application, integration of new learning and teaching concepts into Indian higher education system is the need of the hour. Use of the cutting edge technology, they are already talking about use of cutting edge technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, internet of things, and all other things also. Ultimately, my argument is multidisciplinary studies and blended learning, they go hand in hand only. When you a horizontal approach, when you talk of a horizontal approach only, that is going to become a reality. And if you don't go for a horizontal approach, everything will remain in isolation. And once everything remains in isolation, so whatever you want to do, whatever changes you want to bring in as far as higher education sector is concerned, they just remain as they only remain in a policy. they will not be implemented practically also. So in order to bring them into practice, we should think of these new concepts. So ultimately, what I'd like to say here is think on totally new lines. If you don't think on new lines also, you are not going to especially make this especially concept a reality. Initially, blended learning may look a little bit a new concept. Multidisciplinary studies and other things may look totally new concepts. It may be liberal arts or it may be liberal science also. It may be hybrid learning and other things. You may think that no, we have got lot of constraints in India, and so they are only possible in Western universities. No, it is not the case. Everything is possible in India. Only thing we should change our mindset. As just now I said, teachers should start performing multiple. They should play multiple roles, start learning many new things also, because once I'm expected to deliver things in a different way or in a different mode, I should have multiple skills. Once I acquire those multiple skills with the help of technology, I'll be able to deliver the things. And another important thing is the cost factor also is very, very important when you talk of education. The biggest question is it possible to provide quality education at an affordable cost? If you want to say yes to this particular question also, then we should go for blended learning mode only, because many things you cannot think of, especially providing those things through offline mode. You have to go for online mode only. And once you, wherever possible, once you go for online mode, you will be able to reduce the cost, and you will be able to give the best of the best information to your students, and they are also happy by adopting this particular blended mode, and you are able to save a lot of money, and ultimately the cost of education will be reduced to a great extent also. This is what I wanted to say through my presentation. And now my presentation is open for discussion. As I said, more than giving you information, just I have drawn your attention to some of the developments as far as the blended learning is concerned, what NEP says, and what are my ideas, what is my interpretation. For me, blended learning is not just online and offline. Blended learning, along with blended learning, especially disciplinary studies and all other things also should go hand in hand. That's why I say in the earlier side, I said should go hand in hand. It is a horizontal approach also. Only through this horizontal integration process we'll be able to deliver the things as per the requirements of the 21st century. So with this, I end my presentation. Now the presentation is open for discussion. Thank you. I'll stop sharing the screen. Okay.
Thank you, sir. That was such a wonderful presentation. Gave a good idea about NEP. We have questions coming up.
Yeah.
You want me to read out the questions, sir?
Read, or if you allow them to, if they want to directly ask for anything is okay. No problem. Either they.
Yes, sir. There are already few questions in the chat box.
Yeah.
Let us start with that, and then we can allow the participants to ask questions.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Because interaction would be better, is it not?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. We agree to that. The first question is from guest 142. Though NEP talks of providing infrastructure, many self-financed colleges with single stream or discipline have a concern. Your view on this? Or will these colleges have to merge with bigger colleges?
Yeah. So in the coming days, definitely, I think in my slide also, if you go to that particular point in the NEP clearly says in the coming days, existence of smaller colleges economically it is not at all viable. That's why they say whenever you talk of a college or an higher education institution, it clearly states that at least there should be a 3,000 strength. Then only it will be economically viable. You cannot think of running a college with 100 or 200 students. If somebody is sponsoring you or somebody is pumping in money, okay, fine. Otherwise, why they are talking about multidisciplinary institutions? For your information, I read somewhere in the newspaper, if I'm right, it is in Andhra Pradesh. I'm not very sure. Long back, I have, already some engineering colleges they have started this year, since they found it economically not viable. In engineering colleges, they have also started general education courses like arts, science, and commerce. Why? So that there will be more number of students and it will be economically viable also. Hence, why they are talking about multidisciplinary studies. IIM, societies also they are going to have socials, though they have got so much of corpus fund also, because they say when you talk of a university, when you talk of a college under higher education sector also, you should provide multiple courses. You should have teachers from different streams. Then only they say quality research, and there will be an academic vibration on the campus. Academic vibration on the campus will be felt when you go for multidisciplinary studies. Hence, standalone institutions, I think in the coming days, they have to re-envision their strategies. In last slide, I have used that particular word also. They have to, they have got a vision. They have to go for, they have to re-envision their strategies. Otherwise, survival will be very difficult also. Education is going to become pretty expensive when you talk of online mode, and when you talk of use of technology. Artificial intelligence and all other things are extensively used even in social science. I'm not talking of computer science or engineering. Social sciences, in subjects like history, today you find the use of artificial intelligence and other things. For that, you need a totally different kind of setup. So hence, we should go for multidisciplinary studies. That's what I would like to say.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The next question is like Jacinta Matthew ma'am has asked, one of the main problem is connectivity, both for teachers and students for online learning.
Yeah.
How can we overcome this problem, which is not controllable?
Yeah, it is. See, just now it happened with me also, though I have got best of the best connectivity also. 2 internet connections I'm using, but even then I went offline. Yes, connectivity technology is a challenge as far as India is concerned. That's why I say when you talk of blended learning, why there is a lot of opposition. Say, if you read newspapers, many people, many policy makers and educationists are not supporting the blended learning also. They say the biggest concern is the technology, and technology is pretty expensive. You cannot think of technology. Yes, though connectivity is available or internet facilities available at an affordable cost also, but what about rural India? What about remote areas? So all these questions are there. So, but my suggestion is one should be very optimistic. Is it not? You cannot simply say for the sake of some problems, you cannot say we will not go for this mode. One should have an open-mindedness. Yes, I know whenever a new concept is introduced, there will be a lot of challenges, financially, all other challenges will be there, connectivity, geographical issues will be there. But you cannot simply think of shying away from accepting these new things in the name of some hurdles or technological problems also. You should try your level best to overcome all these especially challenges, and once you are able to overcome all these challenges, ultimately, otherwise what happens, will remain backward, is it not? Now we are talking about blended learning, and already they are talking about hybrid learning, one step ahead. 21st century international, when you talk of international scenario relating to higher education, they are talking about a hybrid learning. That is the next step of blended learning. And still, if you say we want to go for only a offline mode, and then you see what an amount of gap exists as far as our status is concerned and as far as the international standards are concerned. Somewhere you have to catch up the speed, is it not? Otherwise, we will not remain in the race. This is my concern. That's what I'd like to say.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The next question is, Archana ma'am is asking, sir, what is your view on eliminating English and other languages for third and fourth semester as per the NEP?
No, I don't, definitely don't agree with. I'm social science teacher and I'm also, I'm basically an English literature student. I definitely don't support the policy. The language learning should continue for all. If they take my suggestion, till the end of the course, they should have a language. You cannot think of just studying a language at a higher education level just for 1 or 2 semesters. Language should go hand in hand with the other subjects also. One should have proficiency. Read the latest newspaper clippings in papers like Times of India also. There are some articles. I think just day before yesterday's Times of India Education Times, there is an article about the importance of English language. Not only just English language. Language proficiency is a must. And a language cannot be, a particular language cannot be learned within few months. Unless you keep on learning it continuously, you will not be able to develop the proficiency. And once that proficiency is not there, getting a job is very, very difficult also. I feel language should be a part of, it should be, it should not be studied in tits and bits. The language should remain with that particular course until a student completes a particular course. It may be bachelor's degree or master's degree. Language proficiency is required, both oral and written. It cannot be, the study cannot be restricted only for 1 or 2 semesters. I don't support that idea. I don't support. I am for the continuation of language for a few more semesters.
Yes, sir. As an English faculty myself, I also support your view, sir.
Yeah. No, madam, because the language proficiency is a must. I just wonder how come the language can be taught in tits and bits also just by studying 1 or 2 lessons. Is it possible to improve your communication skills and other things? It is a continuous process. Language learning is a continuous process.
Yes, sir.
You cannot teach these skills, whether you call it as soft skills or other skills also. One should keep on updating these skills also from time to time.
Yes, sir. I agree with you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes. The next question is by Nabila ma'am. How the integration of various disciplines will be done? Whether it will be framed in such a way to help the student to strengthen his or her area of interest, or they will be taught different ways and they should apply it to their focus subject.
Yeah, multidisciplinary is a very challenging thing. I definitely agree with you, madam. Multidisciplinary concept is a very vibrant concept and one should be very, very careful. That's why I said it is an integration process. It is an integration process. You cannot forcibly combine some subjects also, and you cannot say it is a interdisciplinary study. Depending on the interest of the students, depending on the availability of the sources, depending on the infrastructure, the integration. That's why more than using the word integration, I'd like to use the word blending. It is a blending process. You know, blending is a very, very technical thing. When you talk of a blended coffee, it will give a totally different kind of experience, is it not? Along with integration, when you talk of interdisciplinary studies and multidisciplinary studies, it should be done in a very, very careful way. You cannot think of doing it in a hurry. You cannot simply say, tomorrow I will start teaching history with physics. That is not going to happen. Lot of thinking has to take place. The teachers should be competent enough. They should be trained. They should undergo training also. Then they should understand the nuances of how that particular integration process should take place. It is we have to go a very long way. Right now, initially we are at the initial stage. NEP 2020. When you talk of NEP 2020, we are still at the initial stage. We have to start experimenting right now. only top institutes are doing, like IITs and IIMs, because they have got all the infrastructure. They are doing it. They are doing it. But when it comes to general education, still we have to go a long way. But the only thing is, we should not delay. As early as possible, we should prepare ourselves, we should equip ourselves so that we'll be able to do it in a faster rate. You cannot think of postponing it for years together. You cannot say, let me take another 5 or 10 years. If you do something after 10 years, already you are outdated, is it not? Now we are talking about blended learning, and already they are worldwide, they are talking about hybrid learning. They have gone one stage ahead, is it not? It is like this. If you say, today I have purchased Apple 5 phone, already I think Apple 11 has come, is it not? Apple 11 has come, and if you say I'm using Apple 5, it will not give you any updates, is it not? You will not be able to use the phone because it is totally outdated and obsolete. The technology is totally obsolete. You have to, you should increase the speed so that you will be able to manage with the system. That's what I like to say.
Yes, sir. The next question is by Shivakumar.
Yeah.
Dear sir, is there any demarcation set between distance education, online courses, offline courses in NEP 2020?
See, more than talking about demarcation and other things also, one thing we should keep in mind when we talk of NEP 20, NEP 2020 essentially suggests in the coming days compartmentalization, demarcation, this and that also. All these, especially I said, we should break the silos. That is the main aim of NEP 20. All these years, our education system is, so rigid. We are totally compartmentalized. Arts means you cannot think of science. Your science means you cannot think of commerce. Commerce means you cannot think of something else. We are totally in different compartments, and the purpose of NEP 2020 is, that's why I said horizontal integration also. Horizontal, it is not verticals. All these years we are in verticals, we are in different towers. All this particular, especially the vertical system, will get eliminated, and once you start integrating them, means we will start looking at all these subjects in a parallel way also, in a parallel way. They exist side by side. Henceforth, you cannot say physics is very important, history is less, English is important, Kannada is not important. You cannot say sociology is very important or political science is less important. That kind of, especially comparison and all other things, will get eliminated. Everything is important. Everything should be studied parallelly. Equal importance should be given to everything. That's what NEP 2020 says. No compartmentalization. No higher subject or lower subject, important subject, less subject, and other things also. We have created all these barriers. So in henceforth, it should be totally a barrier-less education system. That is what is happening in Western world. It's totally a barrier-less education. Commerce is important, arts is not important. That kind of discrimination we cannot think of doing in the coming days. That's what the policy says.
Yes, sir. So here I just want to ask a question here. So will it, the Indian society be easily accepting this change, this not breaking all this compartmentalization?
No, madam, one should, necessity is the mother of invention, is it not? Ultimately, see, whether I accept it or not, it is not question of asking individuals in opinion here. See, we are in 21st century. This is what is happening worldwide. If I don't accept, see, today it is like this. When it is, if Indians or the Indian society doesn't accept also, when I enter, I cannot think of entering a highway with a bicycle or with a bullock cart, because that highway or expressway is meant for a vehicle which are moving at a speed of 100 kilometers. If I enter an expressway with a bullock cart, what will happen? I will meet with an accident, is it not? Because expressways are meant for fast driving, is it not? The expressways are not meant for slow drivers. Slow drivers, they should go to some village roads or to some service roads also. Similarly, when you talk of education, when you talk of technology, when you talk of societal changes also, individual opinion will not matter. What is happening around the world, it matters also. I have to go with the system. I have to go with the latest trends also. If I say I don't accept it, I don't want to go for experimentation, don't want to change my pedagogy and other things also, ultimately there will not be takers, is it not? Why I start a college, why I start a university, why we start offering a particular course? But in order to attract the students, is it not? Our students will come and we deliver the things. If there are no students, if there are no takers, I will lose my existence, is it not? Change is imminent. Change, I have to. That's why we talk about change management. Unless I change, I will not survive, is it not? I have to catch up with the speed also. It is very much required.
Yes, sir. So survival of the fittest.
Yes, survival of the fittest.
Yes, sir. We will move on to the next question, sir.
Yeah.
It's by Shailaja ma'am.
Yeah.
Sir, what is your opinion on blended learning in rural colleges?
Yeah.
How much would it be feasible?
Yeah, see, madam, in the coming days, it is not a rural or urban. Rural and urban divide also is getting slowly. That divide is not at all felt in the recent years. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was felt. Rural area means rural area, urban area means urban area. I don't say all the entire rural India has become urbanized. Yes, still a lot of problems are there. But if you just keep on talking about urban and rural divide, rich and poor divide, and only all these things also, yes, we have talked about these issues since the last 70 years. And now a time has come. You see, I keep on reading some articles in local newspapers also, how teachers, rural teachers are becoming innovative. Otherwise, just other day I read an article in a newspaper in some rural Karnataka, a teacher has built a platform, a wooden platform also, because in his village, these children are not getting internet connectivity, net connectivity is not there. So they are going to that particular platform and they are sitting there and they are studying. See, people are making efforts rather than blaming the system. I don't have electricity. I don't have this also, interdisciplinary and other things also. I definitely agree with you. It may take some time when it compared to urban India. In the rural area, these changes will happen over a period of time. They will not happen within few years because they need good electricity facility, internet connections, and all classrooms should be restructured or as per the requirement of 21st century education, especially field. Modification should take place. It will take few years, but we should not remain very, very reluctant. My suggestion is don't just remain stubborn. I will not accept change. I will not especially go for any reforms. If you just keep on opposing also, a time will come, the society world will neglect you, is it not? Opposition will be there, but how long you are going to oppose? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, or ages together? If you keep on opposing also the reforms and changes, that is not going to, that is not acceptable as far as any progressive society is concerned. You have to change depending on the requirements of the time, need of the hour.
Yes, sir. So here the government also should support these colleges and the infrastructure developments as well, no, sir?
They are doing. I think a lot of changes are taking place. Rural area also, infrastructure, they are providing connectivity, electricity also. They are establishing solar parks to provide, to make rural India more self-sufficient as far as power supply and other things are concerned. Rural electrification projects are there. Connectivity also, rural infrastructure boards have been established. Things are happening, but you say the volume, our country is a very big country, right? 130 crore population. Overnight, we cannot think of changes. Vaccination, only take the example of vaccination. what an amount of especially money is spent, and how much efforts especially you find on the part of the medical staff not to get all the people vaccinated, is it not? New things will not happen overnight, is it not? They will take their own time. But one should be very, very optimistic. One cannot think of opposing these things, since I cannot oppose the reforms just because I don't have the facilities. Is it not? I should aspire to have those facilities, and I should have a very positive mind, and I should always keep on accepting the new things also. That's what I'd like to say.
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
The next question is from Jacinta Matthew, ma'am.
Hmm.
NEP gives the option of multiple exit and multiple entry.
Hmm.
How will these students cope with the changed syllabus when they come back?
No, madam, when it comes to education, one should exits and entries and all these things are new suggestions, are there still, they are at the experimental stage, how exactly it should happen, how these things should be implemented. 1 year certificate, 2 years diploma, all these things. 4 years is a degree course, also entry, exits, and other things are there. But one should keep in mind one important thing is, when you want to learn something, you should not think of all these barriers. Learning may happen at any stage also. See, for learning, there is no fixed time. As a learning process that doesn't have any a time frame or something. I can learn anything at any time. Even when I may be 50 years old, or I may be 60 years old, or maybe 70 years old also. If I got that open-mindedness, ultimately nothing is possible. Other day I read an article, in Kerala, I think one lady, grandma, I think she's 100 plus, and she got her a degree or some certification. She learned computers and other things. Age is not a barrier. Yes, exits and entries are quite challenging, but if you have got that academic bent of mind, if you are a very keen learner, even if you join an institution after 5 years also, the interest is not lost. Otherwise, you have seen students all the time, they are there in the college, but hardly they learn anything, is it not? Physically they are present, but mentally they are not at all present. This situation also we find, but people who are very much interested in acquiring knowledge, people who are, see, I have seen in a city like Bangalore only, you see why today MOOCs and other courses are becoming very popular. People, they cannot think of attending a classes offline class by going to a particular college or institution. MOOCs courses are most popular in India. Why? People, they want to acquire the skills also. Whenever they get the time, night time, they will just sit before their laptops, and they will connect to those courses, and they will keep on learning these things 24 into 7. The courses and tutors are available. So this is how people are learning. And this, if this is the case, you cannot think of just showing some barriers and some especially shortcomings, and you cannot say, no, because of these barriers I am not able to get educated. One has to cross all these hurdles in order to acquire the best of the best knowledge which is available. And fortunately it is available 24 into 7. That is the uniqueness of online mode of learning.
Yes, sir.
There are, if I'm right, madam, there are some questions in Kannada.
Yes, sir.
Are they? Can I see them in the? Can I answer these questions also?
Yes, sir.
Shall I answer?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
1 minute. There is one question. I will read a question and I will give the answer in English only. ಹೊಸ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ನೀತಿ ಪ್ರಾದೇಶಿಕ ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನು. So there is a question by Sri Karibasmana Gowda ji. He has asked, in a new education policy, what will be the status of regional languages? So my answer is, don't, whether something is said in the policy or not also, don't, that's what I'm telling. See, when you start thinking about NEP 2020, first you just remove all the notions which you had earlier as far as education is concerned. We should first, I feel you should delete all your old files from your computer brain or memory. Also start filling, especially your brains, with new ideas, whether there will be regional language and other things. So you forget about a regional, national, international. Remember, today everything is getting internationalized. With my own experience, I'm telling. Who says today Kannada is a regional language? Who says Hindi is a regional language? Who says Telugu is a regional language? Worldwide, you find people talking in this language. You go to America, you find hundreds of people who are talking in Kannada. We have got Kannada courses in my nephews who are American residents. They are learning Kannada language classes. They go to Kannada weekend Kannada classes. Saturdays and Sundays are holidays. they go and learn Kannada classes. American universities, they have got Kannada departments. Does it mean Kannada is a regional language? ನಿಮ್ ಕನ್ನಡದ ಉತ್ತರ ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಕರಿ ಬಸವನಗೌಡ್ರವ್ರೆ, ಪ್ರಾದೇಶಿಕ ಭಾಷೆ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಪದಗಳನ್ನ ನೀನ್ ತೆಗೆದು ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಡಿ. ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಭಾಷೆಗಳು ಜಾಗತಿಕ ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನೇ. ಒಂದ್ ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಒಂದ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಜಾಗತಿಕ. ಜಗತ್ತು ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆನೂ ಎಲ್ಲನೂ ನಾವು ಜಾಗತೀಕರಣಗೊಂಡು ಬಿಟ್ಟಿವಿ. ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ವಿಶ್ವಮಯವಾಗಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಇದು ಭಾಷೆ ಇದಂತಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಗೆಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ರೆಸ್ಟೋರೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ ಓವರ್ ದಿ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್. You go to Australia, you get Kamath hotels are there. Can you say it is a local restaurant? Kamath hotels are there in America. They are there in Dubai. All our Indian cuisines are available in all Western countries. All over the world, they are available. Can you say they are all local cuisines or local food items? ಇನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮುಂದೆ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ವಿಶ್ವಮಾನವತ್ತು ಕುವೆಂಪು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಬೆಳೆಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೇಬೇಕು. ಯಾವುದೋ ಪ್ರಾದೇಶಿಕ ಭಾಷೆ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಅದು ಹೇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಇದೆಯೋ ಅವರು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕಲಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಯಾರಿಗಿಲ್ಲೋ ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಕಲಿತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಐ ಲೈಕ್ ಟು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಂಟು ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್. Interest is very, very important. Henceforth, when it comes to education, don't bother about regional, local, national, international. People who have got interest, you find people with interest all over the world. Kannada language is taught and learnt by people, not just by Kannadikas, by other people also in different parts of the world. People are coming to Karnataka to learn the traditional things which are traditional knowledge or traditional customs and traditions also. People, they come and Westerners, they come and learn Yakshagana and other things. We go to other parts of the world and learn their regional traditions and practices. So we should, my suggestion would be, henceforth, let us remove especially these restrictions and other things also, and let us have a very, very wider perspective. That's why I said a horizontal integration also. Everything is getting integrated. I had been to University of Texas Austin. I had been to South Asian Studies Department. Almost all Indian languages are taught. I interacted with the professors in Kannada language. They asked me when I said I'm from Bangalore. In course of our discussion, one of the professors, he said, "Do you know Kannada?" I said, I know Kannada. Kannada is my mother tongue. We started interacting with each other for I think more than half an hour in Kannada language. How can you say that Kannada is a regional language? ಆ ಪ್ರಾದೇಶಿಕ ಭಾಷೆಗಳ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. So let us think on broader lines in order to understand NEP 20. English ಭಾಷೆ ಅನಿವಾರ್ಯವೇ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ. So there is another question whether English is a necessity or something also. Remember, it is not question of whether English is a necessity or something. Ultimately, we use a language for communication purpose. If I know more languages, I am very, very comfortable. If I know less languages, I am not at all comfortable. It is not a question of making one language compulsory or making another language not compulsory, all these things. Why we had a 3-language formula, though it is opposed vehemently by some states also. The purpose was government thought a child, once he or she completes a 10th standard or something, he should be conversant with at least 3 languages. One is a local language, another one is a national language, and another one is an international language. It is not a especially imposition of any language on an individual. Language barriers should be totally removed. One should try his or her level best to learn more languages. Knowing more languages is nothing but empowering yourself. Language learning is a process of empowerment. For me, language learning or learning a new language is nothing but empowerment. If I learn more and more languages, I'm more comfortable. I can go to any part of the world, I can survive. In that context, one should think of English language or Hindi language or Kannada language or anything. If I don't know any other languages, my exposure is very, very restricted. And because of a restricted exposure, I will not be able to have opportunities at the international level. So hence, I support multi-language formula is a must, not 1 or 2, 3 languages. Encourage students to learn more and more languages. More languages, you are more comfortable and you have got more employability. There is another question. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ ಬೋಧನೆಗೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಗಳಿವೆ ಇಲ್ಲವೇ? Yes, any language can be used as far as soft skills are concerned. It is not necessarily only English. You can think of soft skills in any through any language also. Language is just it is a medium with the help of a particular language also. Through it may be Kannada, it may be Hindi, it may be Sanskrit, it may be English also. Through different languages, you can think of imparting the soft skills as far as students are concerned. There is one question by Kalai Selvi. Is the scrapping of MPhil under the new education policy of India is good decision? See, it is not a scrapping or something also. Government thought that it is not, don't use the word scrapping. Government has withdrawn this particular course. It doesn't mean MPhil course has been totally eliminated. Those who have got already MPhil degrees, those certificates and those degrees are valid. Henceforth, government has said, since they are going to restructure the entire education policy, they feel that MPhil degree is not at all sufficient. So whenever you talk of a particular course, a purpose is there, is it not? A particular purpose is there when you talk of a particular course. So since MPhil did not serve that required purpose, hence the government has withdrawn that course. So since the government has withdrawn that course, the course will not be offered in any of the universities henceforth. It doesn't mean the MPhil course has been scrapped. It is valid. It is valid. But only thing, since the government has withdrawn that course, it will not have any validity as far as employability is concerned. So one should be very, very clear about this.
Yes, sir. Can you read up the question, sir?
Yeah. Or if anyone wants to directly ask question. So as
Yes,
per your
yes, sir. Can we ask the audience to raise the questions?
Yeah, there's another. Can we make the subject expert under blended learning?
Just an announcement, audience.
Yeah.
If you want to ask sir questions, you can raise your hand. So we will call you up. You can ask questions to sir.
No
sir,
problem.
Karibasava Gowda has raised his hand. So you can ask the question.
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ, ಹೇಳಿ
ಸರ್, ಈಗ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಹೊಸ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ನೀತಿನಲ್ಲಿ 4 ವರ್ಷದ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಈ ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತ ವರ್ಷದಿಂದನೇ ಪ್ರಾರಂಭ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ DCM ಅಶ್ವಥ್ ನಾರಾಯಣ ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಇದ್ದದ್ದು ಈ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮತ್ತು ಇತರೆ ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕೇವಲ 1 ಮತ್ತು 2ನೇ ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಮೀಸಲು, ಉಳಿದಿದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅನ್ನ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಆದ್ಯತೆ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಸ್ತಾವನೆ ಇತ್ತು. ಆದ್ರೆ
ಹ,
ನಮ್ಮ ಇಂದಿನ ಇದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ನ್ಯೂ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆ
ಹ.
ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ 3 ವರ್ಷದ ಮೂರು
ಹ.
ಮೂರು
ಇಲ್ಲ
ವರ್ಷದ
ಬಸವ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕೇಳುವ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೂಡ ವರ್ಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರ ಜೊತೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನನ್ನ ಸಲಹೆ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ, ಈಗ ತಾನೇ ನಾನು ಅದನ್ನೇ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಭಾಷೆ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರದವ್ರು ಏನೇ ಬೇಕಾದ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ವಿರೋಧನ ಇರ್ಲಿ ಪರನ ಏನೇ ಇದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಬಹಳ ಚಿಂತನೆ ಮಾಡೋದು ಬೇಡ. ಅದು ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಏನ್ ಬರ್ತದೋ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರದವರಿಗೆ ಸದಸ್ಯ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ನನ್ನ ಭಾಷಣದೊಳಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಈಗ ತಾನೇ, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಏನಂತಾರೆ, ಭಾಷಾ ಕಲಿಯುವಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೇವಲ 1 ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ 2 ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ಗೆ ಸೀಮಿತಗೊಳಿಸದೆ, ಭಾಷೆಯ ಕಲಿಕೆದು ಒಂದು ನಿರಂತರವಾದಂತ ಪ್ರಕ್ರಿಯೆ. ಅದು ಕನ್ನಡ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಯಾವುದೇ ಭಾಷಾ ಕಲಿಕೆಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದಂತ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ನಿರ್ದಿಷ್ಟವಾದಂತ ಹಂತವನ್ನು ನಾವು ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಯಾಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಭಾಷೆಯನ್ನು ನಾವು ಎಷ್ಟು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಕಲಿತೀವೋ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಭಾಷೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕಲಿತೀವೋ, ಆ ಭಾಷೆಗಳ ಕಲಿಯುವಿಕೆಯಿಂದ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಎಂಪವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಏನಂದ್ರೆ ಗ್ರಹಿಕಾ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ ಮತ್ತು ಕಲಿಕಾ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯ, ಒಂದು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಸಾಮರ್ಥ್ಯಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಬರ್ತಾವೆ, ಸ್ಕಿಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವೇನ್ ಹೇಳಿ. ಆ ಕೌಶಲ್ಯಗಳ ಭಾಷಾ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಭಾಷಾ ಕೌಶಲ್ಯ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರದವರು ನನ್ನ ಸಲಹೆ ಕೂಡ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ನಾನು ಕೆಲವು ಇದರೊಳಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಸಲಹೆಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿನಿ. ಭಾಷಾ ಕಲಿಕೆಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ನಿರ್ಬಂಧ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. 1ನೇ ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ 2ನೇ ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಹೀಗೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ. ನಿರಂತರವಾಗಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಹೆಚ್ಚು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ನಮಗೆ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೆ ಭಾಷಾ ಕಲಿಕೆಯ ಕೌಶಲ್ಯ ಬಹಳ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದಲೇ ದೇ ಆರ್ ನಾಟ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಎ ವೆರಿ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ ವೇ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಭಾಷಾ ಕೌಶಲ್ಯ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದೆ, ಕನ್ನಡದೊಳಗೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರದವರು ಏನೇ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಕೂಡ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಚರ್ಚೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಾಗ್ಬೇಕು. ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ಗಳವರೆಗೆ, ಕನಿಷ್ಠ 4 ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ಗಳವರೆಗಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಕೋರ್ಸ್ನೊಳಗೆ 4, 5, 6 ಸೆಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ವರೆಗೆ ಆದ್ರೂ ಇದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಭಾಷಾ ಕಲಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಅವರು ಮುಂದುವರಿಸ್ಬೇಕನ್ನೋದೇನೆ ನನ್ನ ಸಲಹೆ. ಬಹಳ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಬಾರ್ದು. ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಇಸ್ ಎ ಮಸ್ಟ್, and communication skills and language skills are, linguistic skills are very very important as far as the learning process is concerned. Adu nanna abhipraya. Yes, thank you. Another?
Yes, sir. Jacinta Matthew ma'am has raised her hand.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, I was asking you this question, like, see, a student right now he is studying. Okay, I am speaking about this multiple entry, multiple exit, sir. So now we are teaching. Bangalore University changes the syllabus every now and then. So 1 year this student studied with a diploma. He went out. Now after 2 years he comes back. Then we have entirely a different syllabus. So I am not talking about the online learning, MOOC courses and all that. I'm not talking about that. See, the student who has come back, now he wants to complete his 2 more years of degree course. And he wants to go out of the college with a 3 years degree course. So if the syllabus if it has changed drastically, how do that student cope up with the new syllabus is what I asked. I am not talking about the online learning and all that. So that is what I asked.
No, madam, there are challenges when you talk of this exit and entry also, because it is totally new concept when you talk of Indian higher education. So that's why I say, whenever you talk of a new concept or a new system, there will be a lot of hesitation or there will be a lot of opposition. So once you make yourself familiar with the system, then what happens? You will understand, or you will start appreciating the uniqueness or the importance of that particular course. You want to take the example of blended learning also. Since the concept is very very new, initially there is a lot of opposition. People, they say, they keep on giving so many reasons and they say it is not practically viable. But what one should do is, since we are all teachers also, let us wait and watch what exactly government wants to do. Still it is at the processing level. Still it is not processed and it is brought into practice. Because of this pandemic, all the programs and policies and programs are the due dates are getting postponed, is it not, indefinitely. This
Yes,
year
sir.
they wanted to do, they are not able to do these things also. So, but one should be very, very optimistic when you talk of any policy also. What we should do is, we should do Chintan and Manthan. To read a particular policy or a concept also in a very unbiased manner. Once you start reading a particular thing in a very unbiased manner, then you will understand the positive aspects, and then you will understand to a great extent the negative aspects. Then once you understand both positive and negative aspects, start following the positive aspects and try to convert those negative things into the positive things also. That's why we call it as it is a churning process when you talk of any new policy also, whether it is a entry or exit and other things also. Initially, these concepts are very, very new. Since we are not very comfortable with these concepts, all these hundreds of years, we are following the age-old system, is it not? Whatever system we are following under our university system, it is more than 100 years old. 500, more than 100 or 150 years old. Since 150 years, we did not think of any changes. We are very comfortable. We are acclimatized with the existing system. Any change ultimately will result in a lot of opposition. But my suggestion is, in the coming days, our teachers should have a very, very open mind. We should start entering an institution with an open mind. Otherwise, we don't, with an open mind with multiple skills, then what will happen? You find the system very, very tough. You feel you will not be able to survive. So that's why I have used in my, if you see the last part of my presentation, I said a teacher should have the multiple skills also. Similarly, students also should have the multiple skills. Initially, these concepts may look very, very funny, or sometimes they may look very difficult. But once you acclimatize yourself with the new system, I feel you feel that yes, it is a very, very good system also. We'll start appreciating it. We'll start appreciating it. That's what I'd like to say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mona Lisa, I think, has
Yes,
a
sir.
raise.
Mona Lisa Das has raised her
Yes.
hand.
Yeah, Mona Lisa.
Das.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. First of all, I would like to thank you for such a wonderful, in-depth and insightful presentation. I would also like to thank the organizers of the event for roping you, because it was just awesome.
Yeah.
Now,
Thank you.
coming down to the queries, sir, I have a query. Now,
Yeah.
the NEP talks about a lot of teacher training programs. So,
Yeah.
are there any kind of concrete plans we have for any kind of teacher training programs in the pipeline? This is one. Okay, and I have one more question. Now, when we talk about NEP, do you think the NEP is a breeding ground for online schools and colleges in the future?
No, Mona Lisa, first I'll answer the question. So that's why NEP is very, very clear about teachers training. So that's why they say, even I mentioned the specific sections because I don't have time to give all the
Yes, sir.
points related whatever is said in NEP. But NEP definitely talks about teachers training, because whenever a new concept is introduced, teachers are not familiar, is it not? You have studied a particular subject few years ago, and hence you are, once a teacher is an updated guy, then no problem. Otherwise, many teachers are not getting themselves updated. So that's why NEP clearly says there will be teachers training program also. So the nature and other thing, what sort of training should be given and other things, those modalities will be decided in due course once the plan is implemented. But definitely the policy gives a more thrust on teachers training, because when it talks about blended learning also, if I'm right, more than 75% of the teachers are not comfortable or familiar with blended learning, is it not? Only
Yes,
few
sir.
people are comfortable and few people are familiar with the blended learning. So blended, they will give the training. So there will be agencies, either at the government level or at a different level, and these agencies will see to it that teachers will get the required training. Once they get oriented, then they will start delivering the things as per the requirements of the NEP 2020. And your second question is whether NAP 2020 will start promoting online also. So you remember one thing, commerce and management, one important thing. Ultimately, whenever you talk of any course or any system also, cost matters a lot. See, cost factor is very, very important. Why they are talking about online mode and other things also? Online, that's why I even quoted that particular line from NEP 2020. It clearly states that online mode is not going to become a replacement for offline. That has been assured. The particular fact has been assured, or this particular assurance has been given in NEP. They say online mode will exist, it will exit along with offline mode. So that's why they are using the word blended. Both will be blended together, so that a new kind of especially training, a new mode of especially sharing the information is possible. And why, and it further says why we should go for offline mode also. One thing is a cost factor. It doesn't mean, policy never says that just throw all the teachers out and have some smart classrooms and start giving them online special lectures. No, it says offline system also will remain in existence, but it says whenever you talk of some advanced courses, whenever you talk of some unique subjects, for that you need experts, and you cannot think of hiring an expert for a particular one semester or for one paper. So that time what you will do, you go for online mode. Experts are available, he or she may be available in any part of the world. Have a tie-up with those people and they will be able to deliver the content through online mode. That's what they are doing. Suppose in your course, or only a particular course, if you have got an artificial intelligence paper, can you think of hiring an artificial intelligence professor for 2 months or 3 months? Cost-wise, it is not at all possible. That time what you will do, the artificial intelligence paper will be taught not through offline mode, it will be taught through online mode. Because through online mode you are getting, you will be able to get best of the best teachers, is it not? Cost wise also, if you want to teach that particular paper offline mode, is it, suppose if a professor is in America, what will be the cost of that paper? It will cost you lakhs of rupees. And from whom you will collect the money? You will collect the cost from your students. So in order to avoid that particular cost also, or in order to reduce the cost, NEP clearly says regular courses and regular subjects and all these things, the subjects will be taught by teachers face to face in the classroom. But there will be some specialized subjects, there will be some specialized courses, or you are giving some add-on courses also. For that, you cannot think of affordability. It is not affordable on the part of the institution to have a teacher. So then it says, go for online.
Thank you so much, sir.
It is not replacement.
Okay.
Of the offline.
Okay. Thank
It
you.
is
Thank you so much.
complemented. Offline and online in the coming days will be complementary to each other. They will not be contradictory to each other. I have stated in my PPT. Online and offline mode under blended learning will be complementary to each other. They will not be contradictory to each other. One will not replace another one.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dear audience, we will take 1 or 2 more questions. If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand.
Or any questions from chat box? Any questions? Do you
Yes,
find?
sir, we have few more questions there.
Yeah, that also you can read, no problem. If they are not able to ask the questions.
Yes, sir.
Any other question?
Yes, sir. I'm just going through it. So there is one question by Dr. K. Kalai Selvi. Is higher education expected to cater to the hegemonic classes alone? So you want me to repeat it, sir?
Yeah.
Is higher education expected to cater to the hegemonic classes alone? That is the question.
Higher education sector is?
His higher education expected to cater to the hegemonic classes alone?
No. Who says higher education is meant for only people also? See, that way in India, compared to Western world, in India, we are getting quality education at an affordable cost. One should remember, for some people it may look little bit expensive, okay, except some private education institutions where they may be charging lakhs of rupees or something. Otherwise, if you see any course, maybe engineering or medical or any course also, it is definitely catering to the needs of different sections of the society. It is not elite based. It is not only for elites. When you talk of Western world, common people are not able to afford the higher education. The cost is very, hence they go for educational loan. Students, they work go for part-time jobs to meet their expenses. That is not the case, is it not? Whether you talk of even a PG or PhD course in India also, it is quite reasonably priced. That way one should be grateful to the Indian government, any government for that matter. In India, still the education cost is it is affordable one. It is affordable one. That's what I feel. Hence, it is not just serving the requirements of only a few sections in the society. It is afford, yes, but even then, some people may say, no, it is becoming expensive. But you should understand one thing: is a basic economics principle. Cost and quality, they go hand in hand. Is it not? Higher the quality, ultimately the price will be the higher. But even then, comparatively, the Indian education is quite affordable one. Compared to American and European universities. They are pretty expensive. The same course which you do in India may cost you nearly 50 to 60 lakhs when you talk of any American university. Ivy League university, still it is very expensive.
Yes, sir. So we will take up this last question.
Yeah.
This is from guest 39. NEP seems to be having a tone of grow or go. Is it right in a country like ours, where many smaller institutions have for many years provided education, and now it seems small financed schools and colleges will be out of existence? I studied in a small village school, and so many of my friends. With NEP, I think my school will be out of existence. I think it's not fair for our country.
No. One should understand one important thing is also why they are talking about these cluster universities and other things also. NEP definitely doesn't oppose the existence of a smaller entity. It may be a school or a college also. But remember, policy itself will not act. We should remember one thing. When you talk of NEP 2020, it is a policy. It itself will not act. It is giving suggestions. It says, look at the cost of running an institution also. Suppose if you are a small entity and if you have got very, limited resources, then what will happen? What about the salaries of the teachers? What about the running costs and other things? Then ultimately what happens, since it doesn't say that you should merge with somebody or you should lose your entity or existence. Policy will not say. But you should, whenever you talk of anything also, it has all these aspects have got an economic dimension also, is it not? When you think of any school or a college from economic point of view, whenever you start a school or a college also, what is the economic dimension? The operation cost, the running cost of running a particular school or an institution. Remember, if your resources are very, scarce, If you have got very less resources, then can you think of affording all these new technologies and other things? Not. Then what will happen? You remain in existence, but you will not be able to cater to the needs of the students, is it not? You will not be able to think of digital learning, you will not be able to think of online and other things also, because you say they are not economically viable. And once you say they are not economically viable, you are not able to deliver those things to the students. Then what will happen? Automatically, the students will not come to you. Remember, see, it is not grow or perish. One has to grow. Yes, growing maybe initially it may be very, very difficult when you go for technological changes and other things also. I don't say they are not easy. They are expensive. They are quite challenging. The institution should get more resources to adopt all these things also. But the question is, um, same thing has happened even with industries. You go to Pune industrial area in Bangalore, many industries they are dead and gone because they did not upgrade themselves. For that we can't help. Survival of the fittest, is it not? Whether it is a small school or a big school, it is not question of small or a big school. I have to upgrade myself ultimately, whether it is a teacher or a student. I give my own example. When I did my research 25 years ago, I did not have all these technological tools. I did not have even electronic typewriter. It was a manually typed manuscript also. Today, when I go to any presentation, just I carry a pen drive. I don't carry even a pen, just everything is there in a pen drive. Just you carry your laptop, the entire world is with you, is it not? Changes have happened. If today, can I say, no, I did my PhD by using manual typewriter, hence I will now also I will start typing all my presentations by using the manual typewriter. No, I'm very fond of those good old memories. Then there are no takers, is it not? Today my presentations, I'm using it electronic mode. Can I just say, I'll write something on a piece of paper and I'll start showing it like this? Can I say this? No. No, because computer is very expensive. Very challenging, madam. For small entities, it is very, very challenging. Financial aspects are there, all these things also. But somehow or the other, they have to find out the ways and means for their survival. Otherwise, what happens? Say today, it is customer centric, is it not? Market also. When you go to a particular shop, you ask for varieties of products, is it not? If the shopkeeper says, I don't have these products, what you will do? Will you buy whatever is given by him? No. You go with a particular brand. You go to a shop and you say, I want this particular brand only. He may give you a substitute, but you are not ready to take it. You say, I want specifically this. You ask a question whether you have got or not. If he says, I don't have, you go to the next shop also. It happens. It is a challenging thing. New things, when new things will happen or new technologies, when they enter the arena, the obsolete things will get eliminated. I just now gave the example of Apple. Will you go and buy today Apple phone, even if they give you for 5,000 rupees? It is just a piece, is it not? It doesn't have any existence because it will not give you any upgradation. All the technology which is used is a totally an obsolete one, is it not? Nobody will buy an older version of the phone. Everybody will be eager to buy the newer version of the phone, even though it is quite expensive, is it not? Because people want the latest things.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for patiently answering all our queries.
Yeah.
The session has given us a great understanding of NEP and how blended learning is the need of the hour. We are grateful for such a wonderful session, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I should also thank the organizers and participants for raising many questions and other things, so that there will be a lot of interaction, and we'll also learn many new things when you go for interaction mode also, is it not?
Yes,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I request Evangeline ma'am to take over.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you, sir, once again for that very informative and educative session and all the clarifications regarding National Educational Policy 2020 and blended learning. Once again, we render our heartfelt gratitude for you and for that wonderful session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As we've come to a close of our FDP Day 3, I request Professor Bharati to propose the vote of thanks.
Faculty Development Program. I place my sincere gratitude to all the people who have made today's session a success. The technical session 4 by Dr. Vittal sir was very much informative. Thank you, sir, for enlightening all of us on the prospective opportunity of National Education Policy 2020 and its scope in the educational institution. Once again, I thank you on behalf of our Dieselite family. I thank all the participants for being such an amazing audience who took active participation in today's session. Every ending is creating the space and opening for an amazing new beginning. Tomorrow, on day 4 of Faculty Development Program, we will be having Dr. Bhavani, Principal of Sarna College, Bangalore, among us to enlighten all of us on the topic Curriculum and Teacher Competence Building for the New Regime. Thank you all. To meet you all again tomorrow. Have a great evening ahead. Once again, I thank you, sir, and thank all the participants.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.